Hello dear friends, welcome back again. Today is Christmas, so wish you all Merry Christmas. Stay tuned with me to the end, where the holiday magic comes alive. Let's spread some cheer together this season. Let me start the family talk stories. My dad was cheating on my mom, who recently passed. The last year has been a blur of heartbreak, disappointment, and loss, starting with my mother's passing and culminating in unforeseen events that completely destroyed my fragile world. I am devastated by what happened. The weight of life has worn me out, leaving me feeling older than my age at 18 years. My mother's cancer made me feel the most uneasy a year ago, but I was also haunted by unforeseen information about my father. Mom was the one who always seemed to know everything. She fought with courage, but the illness consumed her. When I returned from studying abroad, her health dramatically worsened. For years, my parents had not lived with me. I'd been away from them since I was 12, communicating with them only on rare occasions. My relationship with Dad was aloof, almost like a business deal. If I needed it, he'd call me, keep me informed about our living situation, and ask about my studies. Clearly, our emotional bond had been lost for a long time. Upon my arrival, the house was cold, and I could barely feel the warmth of my old home. Dad's constant arguments with me became commonplace. Despite our mutual agreement, we found it difficult to navigate our broken relationship while looking after Mom. This made everything more challenging. After her death, Dad stated that he had taken on a second job to support us financially. When he was not home, a sense of distantness prevailed over the noise. Initially, I thought his behavior was due to grief, with the assumption that he may not have been mentally prepared for the loss of his mother. Then, the bombshell dropped. It was revealed to me that Dad had been being unfaithful for 2 years. The relationship started before Mom became sick, during a period when she still had the nerve to argue with him about the confidential information he had begun keeping. According to my sister, Mom had considered abandoning him at one point. But then the cancer rolled in and everything changed. Survival became the priority for Mom, and any issues that were left unresolved were directed towards them. She was unable to address the betrayal. My heart was shattered upon learning about the affair. How could he be so unfaithful to Mom when she needed him the most? I'm curious to know. I was filled with anger and disgust. He always seemed like he was lying. That's the reality of things. I contemplated my motives, wondering if I was being too emotional or assuming it was just me. My contemplation led me to realize that the issue was not solely about the affair. It was all lies, manipulation, and the obvious disregard for the family he was meant to be with. It was too much to hide behind my closed eyes. I decided to confront him. My brothers and I put him down, expecting a sense of regret or explanation for his behavior. Our response was one of apathy and coldness. Despite everything, he denied any wrongdoing and dismissed our pain as insignificant. The words were a blow to the soul. In spite of everything, I had hoped for him to display kindness. It seemed as though he was enjoying our pain instead. My longing for a reconciliation was completely disregarded at that point. His most recent revelation left me in a state of shock and confusion, as I couldn't fathom how someone like him could be my father. He confessed to exploiting his lover for financial gain and disregarding her sentimental value. His perception was that this would legitimize his behavior, as if plundering someone's assets was no more unacceptable than betraying his wife on the deathbed. Even he experienced a new low. Despite being my father's primary source of education on values like integrity and respect, I had no familiarity with him. It was hard to believe that the person sitting in front of me could actually be this man. We were all affected by the betrayal, not just Mom. The irreparable damage to our family left us and my siblings to cope with the pain. The following days were characterized by a lack of emotion. My attempts to study and spend time with my siblings were unsuccessful due to the constant stress caused by everything. I found myself questioning all my supposed knowledge about family and trust. Can someone truly deceive those who depend on them in the most meaningful way? Every emotion is magnified by grief. Losing mom was already an indescribable pain, and the loss of dad was like losing another parent. Anger, sadness and a sense of emptiness led me to cycle. Communication with friends didn't seem feasible. What is the best way to begin explaining something like this? Is it possible for someone to say something like, "I'm sorry"? Sorry is just the first line of inquiry. I remember sitting in my room one night and noticing a choice, looking up from the ceiling. Why? I have the choice to let my anger take over, or I could choose to move on and not be affected. It wasn't about forgiving Dad, it was about taking control of my life. I never thought I could do that. I started with the things that were within my control. I commenced my academic pursuits, feeling content with the arrangement and objective they offered. My siblings were my support system, as they had to deal with the betrayal of their dad. The level of openness we shared was unprecedented as we talked about our mom experiences and rehearsed how we could make sense of the situation. Our shared pain brought us together in some manner. Our alliance became a vital source of support for each other, even though it was bleak. After a difficult start, I decided to seek help through therapy. Experiencing the most difficult moments in your life with a stranger is nerve-wracking, but so is being liberated. For the first time, I felt like someone was actually listening, not trying to give me empty words or quick fixes. My therapist validated my emotions and made me understand that anger and hurt were not in the wrong. She urged me to consider my future self. Am I determined not to let this hurt me forever, or was my focus solely on finding a way out? Healing is a slow and messy process. Some days are better than others. There are moments when I feel like I have a slight weight lighter on my chest and I feel like I'm making progress. But there are also moments when the anger and sadness rise up again and I feel like I'm drowning. At times like these, I remember my mother's strength. She dealt with her illness with courage and dignity and never let it define her. If she can do that, maybe I can find the strength to get through it too. As far as my dad is concerned, I've decided to distance myself. Forgiveness seems impossible now and I'm not sure if that will ever change. But I've realized that I don't need his apology or approval to move on. His actions reflect who he is, not me. I can choose to be better, build a life based on honesty and kindness, and honor my mother's memory by embodying the values she taught me. The road ahead is uncertain, but I'm learning to take it one day at a time. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, of testing our resilience in ways we never imagined. But it also has a way of surprising us, of showing us that even in the darkest times, there is light to be found. For now, I'm holding on to that hope, trusting that the pain will lessen and that brighter days are still to come. Story 2. My 35F boyfriend, 33M, accidentally injured me whilst he was drunk. My 35F boyfriend 33M tried to pick me up whilst drunk and dropped me onto the road causing multiple injuries, then proceeded to be rude and aggressive. He has apologized. Should I try and forgive him or just walk away from this? So me, 35F, and my boyfriend, 33M, have been together for 6 months, although we did split for 2 of these months due to things going on in our personal lives. We have rekindled things and have a really strong relationship now. Last week was his work Christmas party, which I was his +1. It was a lovely night getting dressed up and meeting his colleagues. I don't know if he was nervous maybe, but he drank a lot and proceeded to get drunk faster than everyone else. I even overheard him talking to one of his colleagues about our sex life, which upset me because I think those details should be kept private. I got him some food and told him we should slow down on the drinks, trying subtly to look after him. I suggested we left early, so that he wouldn't embarrass himself in front of any of his big bosses. We then went and met some of his friends at another bar where we continued to drink. By the time we had to leave he said we had to walk home because there were no taxis. It was maybe a 15-minute walk, which wouldn't be too bad, but I was in a long dress, high heels, and it was -1 degrees outside. So obviously I'm grumbling and not happy about this, and walking slower than him and his friend. He gets frustrated at me and says, "Here, I'll just carry you." Which I replied no. He then proceeds to pick me up, start trying to walk with me, but slips and drops me onto the concrete road. I hit my head, my elbows and my back on the cold hard floor. I'm laying there in shock, and he shouts at me to get out the road and grabs me to try and pull me up, but I fall forward onto my knees and roll my ankle. At this point I start sobbing, and another group of people behind us come over to see if I'm okay. I take my shoes off and one of the girls lends me her socks so I'm not barefoot. We link arms and I hobble, back with them whilst my boyfriend walks ahead with his friend. We get back to his, and he and his friend want to continue drinking. I am freezing cold, in pain and tired, but he doesn't seem to care. Finally I get his friend to leave so we can go to bed, and my boyfriend is pissed off at me saying I ruined his night. We start arguing and I'm telling him how much he humiliated me and how he should have looked after me. I told him to lose the attitude and apologize for shouting at me or he would wake up single in the morning. Which may have been a bit harsh, but at this point I was so fed up. This sent him into a rage. He was shouting at me, punched a hole in the wall and jumped on the bed to scream in my face, which broke it. I rolled over and started crying, to which he said, "Oh, stop using the fact that your mum died as an excuse to be sad all the time." For context, I spent the last 2 years caring for my mum while she had chemo, and she passed away at the end of October. This really hurt me because he's been my rock, he's been so supportive and is normally so loving and caring. I've never seen this side of him and didn't realize he could be so hostile and reckless when drunk. We've been out drinking together plenty of times and nothing like this has ever happened. We normally have a great time. The next day he was very hungover and apologetic. I'm not sure how much he actually remembers. He looked after me and bought me flowers and took me to the hospital for an X-ray to make sure I was okay. I'm torn as to what to do now. Do I break up with him? He could have potentially put my life in danger if he had dropped me on my head. Or do I try and move past this one-off incident in an otherwise great relationship? I don't want to lose him, as this is the first relationship I've had in a long time where I've had such a good and loving connection with someone, but at the same time this incident has changed the way I feel about him. I need to have a conversation with him at some point. I just don't know how to bring it up. How do I move past this? Update: my boyfriend accidentally injured me whilst drunk. So I thought I would give a little update to my previous post. Thank you to everyone who took the time to reply. I read through everything and a lot of you were saying, "Run, this is abuse," and honestly I didn't see it at the time. My judgment was so clouded, so that was a bit of a wake-up call. I didn't break up with him immediately. As stupid as it sounds, I like to try and see the best in people. I was also in bed in pain from my back injury. I couldn't even leave the house. So I put boundaries in place and gave him the chance to fix things so I could forgive him. That didn't happen. Within a week he decided to turn things round on me. He was so embarrassed about the way he treated me he couldn't live with himself. He threatened suicide and sent me photos of him hanging out a window saying he was gonna jump. Blaming it on me. I had to call the suicide hotline because I was so worried about him. He then went back and forth from telling me all the loving, caring stuff I wanted to hear, to being cold and dismissive. He then proceeded to go out drinking on a bender and lie to me about his whereabouts, etc., and then try and gaslight me. I wasn't putting up with his BS anymore. Last night he went out drinking and apparently his friend got hold of his phone and sent me a load of nasty messages. He kept saying it wasn't him, but regardless, I do not appreciate that kind of disrespect. Oh, and here's the plot twist. He was cheating on me. Whether it was him or his friend that sent me the messages, I got sent screenshots of him on dating apps talking to other girls. I am beyond pissed and so heartbroken right now. I feel like such an idiot for even giving this guy the time of day. I should have left a long time ago. You guys were right. I'm just sad because I'm grieving the loss of someone I loved, and who I thought loved me. But also grieving the death of my mum 2 months ago. I was supposed to be spending Christmas with him and now I'm gonna be alone. Update is on the way, so stay tuned with us and subscribe us and press bell icon. Thank you for watching and listening the story. Good night. All have a great sleep. We meet on the next Family Tales and Truths. We will take new updates and new topics, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe.